Sturgeon's COVID-19 restriction plans go pear-shaped as Omicron cases still went through the roof. Nicola Sturgeon has been slammed for implementing useless restrictions in Scotland as it does not control the spread of the virus, an expert has claimed. Infectious disease epidemiologist Professor Sunetra Gupta has warned Nicola Sturgeon's restrictions cause profound harm. Hogmanay celebrations were cancelled across Scotland in response to the surging spread of coronavirus, with people urged to stay at home and limit how many people they meet. Scotland's traditional large-scale Hogmanay celebrations have been cancelled as part of new COVID-19 restrictions announced by Nicola Sturgeon last week. Professor Gupta said, "The harm that these restrictions cause in Scotland and Wales is really profound. They are pretty much useless in terms of controlling the spread of the virus." The First Minister also introduced new curbs on hospitality and urged people to stay at home as much as possible until at least the first week of January. New limits on large public gatherings have forced the cancellation of New Year's Eve street parties, including the one planned for Edinburgh. Hogmanay street parties across Scotland have been cancelled, with crowds at outdoor public events capped at 500 since Boxing Day, for at least 3 weeks, and numbers at indoor public events limited to 100 standing or 200 seated. Ms. Sturgeon said the restrictions were aimed at cutting down transmission of the Omicron coronavirus variant and because large events put an additional burden on emergency services. Explaining the latest guidance, Ms. Sturgeon said, "Over Hogmanay and New Year's Day, and for at least the first week in January, we are advising everyone to stay at home more than normal, to reduce contacts with people outside our own households, and to limit the size of any indoor social gatherings that do take place so that they don't include people from any more than 3 households." Announcing the restrictions, Ms. Sturgeon said, "This will, of course, make sports matches, including football, effectively spectator-free over this 3-week period. And it will also mean that large-scale Hogmanay celebrations, including that planned here in our capital city, will not proceed. I know how disappointing this will be for those looking forward to these events, and for the organisers of them. For 3 weeks from January 27, pubs and other venues selling alcohol will also be required to offer table service only, and indoor hospitality venues are to ensure 1-metre social distancing between groups of people." Scotland's Deputy First Minister John Swinney said while there is nothing to stop partygoers from heading south of the border, where nightclubs are still open, for their Hogmanay celebrations, this would go against the spirit of the regulations put in place by the Scottish Government. On Friday afternoon, Edinburgh Waverley station remained quiet, with staff telling the PA news agency most trains heading to England were approximately half full, and it was even quieter than a normal day. The latest coronavirus figures in Scotland show daily coronavirus cases hit a record high for the second consecutive day, with 16,857 newly infected people. Figures published by the Scottish Government on Thursday show 71,612 new tests for COVID-19 reported results and 27.1% were positive. In another news, Nicola Sturgeon has been accused of fobbing off chronic pain patients by blaming the pandemic for treatment delays. The First Minister was asked negation about mum of 2 Liz negation Barry after the Sunday Mail highlighted her 3-year wait for a steroid injection. Former nurse Liz, from East Kilbride, has been unable to work since being left in agony after a fall more than a decade ago. She is in her 50s. She said, "This response from the First Negation Minister is completely unacceptable. She is blaming the pandemic for the outrageous delays being endured by chronic pain patients, but this is a negation problem which predates COVID-19. I am supposed to receive 2 negation injections a year, but it looks like I will be waiting 3 years for my next one, and there are many more people like me. That is not just caused by COVID negation disruption, there are deeper issues with priorities and resources. I have been waiting 23 months for treatment, and I have waited the same length of time a decade ago, so the negation pandemic is not to blame." The Scottish Government said, "Every time cases go up, that puts more pressure on NHS staff and services.